all set?
Yeah, there's
Okay. We hear me okay here? A little louder? All right. So good evening. Tonight's first inductee is Mike McInally, and he'll be presented by Chris Harrington. Chris is the head coach at Tioga High School. For those of you who haven't been in a cave for the last few years, you'll recognize the name Tioga there, the three-time defending dual meet state, five-time defending? Okay. That was a test. Yeah, there was COVID in there. I've lost track. Chris.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
No.
No? All right. Is that better? Louder? All right. I'll do my best. Okay. I'm really nice to the officials, so they might hear my voice a little bit better.
We all are.
Good evening. My name is Chris Harrington, and I have the honor of inducting Mike McInally to the Section 5 Hall of Fame. In my 40 years in the sport of wrestling, I've been extremely fortunate to be able to work with some of the legends of New York State, and I can confidently say that Mike McInally holds his own with any of those athletes. Today we celebrate Mike's successes and victories which can be quantified with his many titles and accolades. As an athlete at Byron-Bergen, Mike McInally was a three-time Section 5 champion, a Section 5 Sportsmanship Award winner, a three-time state finalist, and in 2006 he reached the pinnacle of the sport and became a New York State champion. His successes did not end in high school. Mike was a four-year starter at the University of Rochester Institute of Technology, where he was a four-time national qualifier, the RIT Comeback Athlete of the Year, a two-time All-American, and a two-time national finalist. While all these accomplishments are truly outstanding and noteworthy, I, however, would like to focus on the things that made his accomplishments a reality. One, his ability to stay positive. Anyone that's achieved a significant goal has dealt with adversity. And I'd have to say that Mike has one story that really stands out, how he overcame adversity. After his junior season at RIT, Mike went through spinal fusion surgery where he had to repair 2 discs in his neck. Even though he was in tremendous pain throughout his senior campaign, Mike overcame this adversity by staying positive and focused and working towards his goals. 2, his ability to be fearless. Being fearless might seem like a basic trait of all successful athletes, but being fearless is very rare. For Mike, this was a core value. Mike was never afraid to give up points. If he was taken down, he kept wrestling. If he gave up 2 takedowns, he kept wrestling. You really couldn't shake him. Wrestling with fearlessness led to immense success, and to me, that's the sign of a great wrestler. 4, his consistency. Mike's effort, it was consistent, his focus was consistent, and his training was consistent. Another consistent in his wrestling career was his twin brother, Steven. Steven was Mike's training partner throughout his career, and they shared in this journey of success and failure as one unit. This constant, in my opinion, was the biggest driver to Mike's success. Finally, luck. Sometimes you have to have some luck. For my first high school coaching assignment, I was given the task to coach Mike and Steve, and honestly, how lucky could a coach get? They fooled me into thinking that wrestling coaching was easy at the high school level, and somehow I'm still doing it 20 years later. Where is he?
Right here.
Oh, there he is. He just moved. He was sitting here. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mike McInally to the Section 5 Hall of Fame. You want a picture? Please, later.
It's done.
Not yet.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Friends of Wrestling for this amazing honor and for putting on this banquet every year. This is really awesome, what you guys do for the wrestling community in Section 5. Thank you, Elise, for holding down the fort at home. with my son, while I spend countless hours getting to do what I love all year long, and I couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. Is this working? Thank you, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. There we go. And for being there for me as a mentor for my career as an athlete and as a coach. I never realized how rare that fearlessness was, or how much that trait allowed me to be successful. I need to remind myself of that and to strive to be more fearless in everything that I do. One time I can remember that wasn't the case in my career. And I think you probably know this moment even without having talked to you about this. One particular weight cut, I was probably 4 pounds away. I was dropping 10 pounds already. And I had to wrestle the D3Wrestling.com Athlete of the Week. A kid named Seth Ecker from Ithaca. A lot of Ithaca fans here. I heard you guys cheering earlier. The weight wasn't coming off. I was pretty exhausted. I was sick of it. It was a long season, a lot of cutting weight. And I called Chris, who I probably hadn't been in my corner for a couple of years at that point. But Chris always had a way of motivating me, a way that no other coach I've ever met. It's one of the things that I strive to do better as a coach, is to motivate my athletes the way that Chris can. So thank you for that, Chris. I left that locker room feeling like a completely different animal than when I had entered. I went into that match and major decisioned Seth Ecker in his home gym under this big annoying spotlight that nobody likes wrestling under. And that was another moment of adversity that I was able to get through with your help. My confidence never wavered after that moment through my entire college career. So that was one really big defining moment for me. Next, I have to thank Coach Jeffords, who's not here tonight, my high school coach. Many of you know him. Coach Jeffords met me and Steve our first time when we were, I think, fighting each other in the hallways in middle school. He pulled us in, and rather than reprimanding us, he asked us, "Hey, do you guys want to come beat each other up in this padded room every day for the next 8 years after school?" It was an easy choice at the moment. And we beat the hell out of each other in that room. I didn't realize at the time how much that moment had changed my life. And I often get emotional thinking about where my life would be without the people who've guided me to wrestling and made most of my life about this sport. I'd also like to thank Tom and Ellen Taylor, who are here tonight, who brought me into their family and really guided me to be a better person through my high school career. Lastly, I have to recognize my brother Steve, who I mentioned before. Steve's my identical twin, my set of spare parts, and the best training algorithm an athlete could ever ask for. But more than that, he's my best friend. Steve's the definition of family. Being my twin, you can imagine, he's the only one who was there for every single moment in my career and in my life. Steve's been the best coach I've ever had, the best training partner, one of the smartest athletes I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Take that water.
Take a break.
Not only was Steve a huge part of my career, he was right beside me wrestling his own finals matches in every Section 5 championship. Every tournament that I ever won, he was winning or taking second. He inspired me to push harder, pushed himself physically and mentally through barriers. And I was right alongside him doing the same. He's one of the toughest dudes I've ever met, and I wouldn't be here without him. Steve doesn't get recognized as much as he deserves in this sport. Not many athletes make the Section 5 finals 3 times. Today that would make him a 3-time state qualifier and likely a placer. He's among the best athletes to come out of Section 5 despite his choice not to compete in college, and maybe someday he'll be on this plaque right by my side where he's always been. Thank you for allowing me to represent Section 5 for all these years. Thank you to the families and coaches who allowed me to work with their athletes to build the next generation of Hall of Famers.
We will deviate slightly from the way we normally proceed. Usually we have a presenter, just like we just had, and the inductee, the acceptance speech. Our next inductee will be Mike Cronmiller Sr. And rather than have a presenter, we're going to have his sons come up and speak about Mike. I do want to acknowledge that we have a large number of people on our Hall of Fame database. We only induct 6 a year. It takes us forever to recognize everybody. And I want to thank Frank Vito for reminding me, don't forget Mike. We never forgot Mike. It was just a matter of time before we got him inducted, and tonight is the time. I could have the Cronmillers.
Get the podium. Can go up there.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, friends of Section 5. Appreciate this. Heard a lot tonight. This is long overdue. And it is. This is my dad. Right there, that young man. Pretty intense in that picture. That's my brother Bill at the state tournament. He's over there. He kind of gave us the pass and let us speak tonight for my dad. I didn't have anything prepared. I've been in the sport for 50 years, coaching, officiating, coaching again. Every time I show up at a wrestling tournament, somebody comes up to me and says, your dad meant so much to me. I have memories, go over the memories. You guys could go over your memories about Mike Cronmiller Sr., but we'd be here till midnight. They're that deep. He meant so much. And I just want to say, I'll turn this over to my brother Mike. Thank you. Thanks for honoring him. Thanks for bringing him up every time I see you guys at wrestling tournaments and wrestling functions. It's really special to be part of it. Wrestling defines us. Every single one of us have some part of wrestling in us that makes us who we are. And my dad gave me that. He gave many of you that. Thanks for honoring him.
No?
You can take it out. Put it close to your mouth.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
So I wrote some stuff down. My wife told me that if I ad-lib, seeing that I haven't been in front of a class in a while, I retired last June. I might get a little verbal diarrhea, so I figured, all right, I'll stick to the script. I am joined tonight by my sister Mary Beth Tuttle, her husband Greg, my brother Bill, my brother Steve, my stepmother Chris. I would like to thank all of those tonight who have come to support my father and celebrate his induction. I also want to congratulate all of tonight's fellow inductees, some who have wrestled for my father as I did. Fellow wrestling enthusiasts, tonight as I stand before you, my heart is heavy, yet filled with immense pride as I accept this induction into the Section 5 Wrestling Hall of Fame on behalf of my beloved father, Mike Cronmiller Sr. While he may not be with us in person, his spirit and legacy loom large in this hallowed hall among the titans of this sport. My father was more than just a wrestler and coach. He was a pioneer, a mentor, and a true champion both on and off the mat. His passion for wrestling knew no bounds, and he dedicated his life to mastering the craft and inspiring generations of wrestlers to follow in his footsteps. I never got to see my father wrestler.
Time's up.
Coach Cronmiller.
Thank you very much. Is that my wife, Paula, telling me I'm done? Where was I? I never got to see my father wrestler, but was one of the lucky ones to be coached by him at Monroe Community College. He coached numerous All-Americans and developed one of the best junior college programs in the country. From the moment he stepped onto the mat, my father commanded respect with his skill, his tenacity, and his unwavering determination. But beyond his accolades and accomplishments, my father was a man of integrity, honor, and compassion. He believed in the power of wrestling to transform lives, to inspire discipline and perseverance, and to unite communities in a shared love for the sport. If I had to pick one lesson my father instilled in all of his wrestlers, I would have to say grit. Dad would say grit is that relentless determination, that indomitable spirit, that refusal to give up when the going gets tough. And in wrestling, that's what separates champions from the rest. He brought wrestling to the Pierpont Rec Center at number 7 school in the city of Rochester, partly because he loved wrestling, but more because he thought every kid growing up should learn how to wrestle and acquire the oh-so-valuable tool of life called grit. From his 12-year-old wrestlers at Pierpont to his college wrestlers at MCC and all those Rochester Lilac wrestlers in between, he instilled the meaning of true grit. He emphasized learning from our losses, using them as fuel to come back stronger, better, and more determined than ever before. She must be coming. It's okay. He refused to let defeat define us, but instead used it as a stepping stone on the path to success. He showed us how wrestling is as much a battle of the mind as it is of the body, how it's about staying focused, staying disciplined, even when our minds are screaming at us to give in to doubt and fear. Through grit, he made us believe in ourselves, even when nobody else did. As I look at this photo of my dad, it reminds me of the true grit he had and instilled in us to push ourselves to our limits and beyond. I look at the expression on his face there when my brother was wrestling at the States, and that was his face all the time, just that intense grit. Knowing that it's through that adversity that we truly grow. He would always say, it takes a little grit to make a pearl. To his fellow wrestlers, coaches, and fans, my father was not just a competitor. He was a friend, a mentor, and a role model. He inspired others with his work ethic, his humility, and his unwavering commitment to excellence, both on and off the mat. As I reflect on my father's legacy, I'm reminded of the countless lives he touched and the indelible mark he left on the world of wrestling. His passion, his courage, and his spirit will continue to inspire us for generations to come. On behalf of my family, my sister Mary Beth, my brother-in-law Greg, my brother Bill, my brother Steve, and my stepmother Chris, I want to express our deepest gratitude for this incredible honor. My father's induction to the Section 5 Wrestling Hall of Fame is a testament of his legacy and a celebration of everything he stood for as a wrestler and a man. While we may mourn his passing, we take solace in knowing that his memory will live on through his induction into this esteemed Hall of Fame. May we continue to honor his legacy by upholding the values of integrity, perseverance, and sportsmanship that he embodied throughout his illustrious career. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for this humbling tribute to my father. He may be gone, but but his spirit will forever be immortalized among the legends of wrestling. Long live the memory of Mike Cronmiller Sr., and long live the spirit of wrestling. Thank you.
What's one of the worst things that could happen the night you're being inducted into the Section 5 Hall of Fame is your presenter can't be here. I mean, that's a tough position. Well, luckily, our next inductee had a friend from high school and elementary school that was willing to step in and pinch hit. So I'd like to introduce Fred Harrison to present Mr. Juergens.
Thank you. My name is Fred Harrison. I'm standing in for Chris Johnson, who is Ken Juergens' teammate at West Point. Unfortunately, he had COVID, so couldn't make it. So Ken and I have been friends since we were 8. I was never a wrestler. However, I was a victim of Ken's guillotines and banana splits many times. So I feel it's an honor to come here and talk about Ken. His list of accomplishments are lengthy, both in high school, at West Point as a wrestler, as a distinguished Army officer, and finally as a business executive post-Army. So some of his accomplishments include the following. He was a member of the AAU All-Star Wrestling team that went to Iran in the summer of '77, which Mr. Oliveri was a big part of. Thank you, Mr. Oliveri. He was a Monroe County West All-Star selection in 1978 and was also 2-time Section 5 AAA third-place champ. He was elected the team co-captain of the Hilton Cadets in 1978, and they were ranked 12th in New York State during that year. As mentioned, he wrestled at Division I Army. He was a 3-year varsity letter winner in '78 to '82. And as a senior, he helped the Army team to become ranked 23rd nationally and 4th in the East. After graduating, Ken was commissioned as a second lieutenant, went to Kaiserslautern, Germany, West Germany at the time. And while he was there, he became U.S. Army European Freestyle Champion. So Ken continued to coach when he was in the Army. When he came stateside after leaving Kaiserslautern and was a battalion commander in the 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, he coached the winning 10th Mountain Division wrestling team for men and women. So Ken left the service in 2007 after reaching the rank of full colonel and having commanded at the brigade level in units around the globe. So we're very proud of that. Ken transitioned into civilian life and took a position as VP of Oshkosh Defense Industries of Wisconsin, where he led the project to develop mine-resistant vehicles for the Army's use in Afghanistan, saving many lives. Ken is still heavily involved in wrestling, particularly with West Point, where he coordinates fundraising for class year 79-85, and he still helps identify top prospects. He also served in the West Point class of '82 as class president and stayed on for 5 years, raising a record $5 million for a class as a class gift to West Point. Ken has been honored recently by induction to the Hilton High School Hall of Fame. He's been honored by the military and the Army, and he was inducted into the prestigious U.S. Army Ordnance Corps Hall of Fame. And most recently, Ken is serving as president of the board and commander of the Churchville American Legion Post 954. This evening, he's here with his wife, Tish, his mother-in-law and former Hilton science teacher, Mrs. Sandra Wilson, his brother, Harold Juergens, and Harold's son-in-law, Tim Santiago. I'm very proud to call Ken a friend, and I'm proud to introduce him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Let's do it.
There we go. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Fred. It's very hard to step up for somebody. Chris, who was my teammate and roommate at West Point and was a very good friend, he is very sorry that he couldn't come here. He had the plane tickets and everything, and he thought he was feeling a little down, so he took the test at Walgreens in Iowa. He was coming in from Dubuque, and I think he made the right decision. We don't need to get COVID in this group. So I want to thank certain people right up front. Thank Murata and the Section 5 Hall of Fame and the Friends of Section 5. What an honor. What an honor. It really is. And I want to thank Coach Frank Oliveri, who called me and let me know that I was inducted. Thank you, Frank. And I've known him since I was a kid, like I was 13, 14, wrestling in Carter Street. And it was amazing to me. He's like, Ken, I remember you. You went to Iran, and you know, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Coach, you're amazing. You're amazing memory. And I'd like to thank Billy Fridelli, who first talked about this. And I also want to thank my family, who Fred already mentioned, a big part of my life. This induction at Section 5 Hall of Fame is a great honor. I'm most grateful to have the privilege to be a wrestler, as most people here in this room. It's defined me all through my career as a leader, as well as an individual, and learning how to be a teammate. To be a wrestler to me is literally to be a man in the arena, as Teddy Roosevelt so well said, because it's only you and your opponent, as so many people know in this room, on the mat. And you have to rely on your coaches. And I was fortunate to have many, many good coaches. And you have to rely on your training and your partners and your skill and sometimes luck. And there's another component. You have to rely on your parents, especially in high school. And I was fortunate to have two beautiful parents, my dad and my mom. And, you know, I was in the Army. Fred mentioned I was in the Army. And in the Army, communications is very important. And we're always looking from satellite. I mean, when I first started, it was literally a wire to a telephone. And then we got into ComSat, satellite technology. But I always wondered why they didn't get the one communication thing that I never thought was explored. And that was a wrestling mom. Because no matter where I was on the mat, I could hear my mom. I couldn't hear my coaches. I couldn't hear my teammates. But I certainly could hear my mom from that, you know, stands. And God bless her. I was really blessed with my mom. She was one of those that wrestled the match in the stands and knew the moves better than I did. Wrestling taught me a lot of life skills, like how to win, and more importantly, how to react to loss. It's the ultimate crucible for character and for leadership. Nothing develops your character, in my estimation, than to have a very successful older brother in the sport, a future state champ, and wrestling as an 8th grader with that last name, and you're wrestling on a freshman team. High expectations, right? Yeah, brother of state champ. Oh, he's going to be good. You have a 0-8 record. Your last match in the season is a kid from Bishop Kearney with a 0-8 record. And your teammates are ecstatic. Ken, you're going to win now. You can't lose. Well, guess what? We tied 0-0. Talk about a good reason to quit a sport. But I didn't. I later won a summer tournament, and something clicked, like all of us, and leading to a successful career. And it was a lifelong lesson in many, many aspects, all the way until now. Wrestling is also directly or indirectly involved in many of the important parts of my life. Wrestling is a part of me. It was like meeting my wife at 14 years old. when her mom took her to one of my wrestling matches as my science teacher. And she said, I think you want to meet my daughter. Yes, Mrs. Wilson. And brought her there. And then look, 45 years later, here we are. And going overseas to Frank Oliveri, going to Iran. What a difference, seeing how most of the world lives. And just tonight, a little ad lib, I've seen so many of my teammates here tonight, so it's like a homecoming. And we had so many stories, like in all wrestling. When you're at tournaments, you're going away, you have so many experiences and so many life stories you can tell. And what really impressed me was I didn't realize how most of the other world lived. And that really imparted me something and changed my life, changed my perspective. Another thing wrestling did was it enabled me to get to West Point, because I had never seen West Point, didn't know West Point. The training camp to go to Iran was in West Point, and I fell in love with it. And ended up serving 25 years of my life in the Army because of that. And you know, all the lessons learned in wrestling, you know, I could go, like somebody was saying, I could talk all night about all the lessons I had. But for 25 years in the Army and the corporate world for 10 years, it established lifelong connections to friends, places, and homes. And I have friends in wrestling throughout the country and overseas, and it's just wonderful. I just bathe in the glory of being so fortunate to have that. And, you know, I'll kind of conclude on this. Every generation, I know, reflects favorably on their times. I just think I was fortunate to wrestle in the 70s and the early 80s. It was a time when a young man named Clayton Barnard that literally started the Hilton wrestling program. I was there and I knew Clayton. And by leading the program, he grew it. And it's growing out of time. Everybody here is Hilton now. But back in my time, we weren't one of the powerhouses. It was heady times because we had competition against Spencerport, East Rochester, Fairport, Churchville, Brockport. And we had stars like Frank DeAngelis, St. James, Zito, Holiday, Hatzels, Barnards, coaches like Oliveri, Tyke, Kratz, Logan, Wynn, and many others that were in Section 5. And I just thought, wow, these are the people I want to emulate. And I've done that for my last 40 years. I remember within Section 5, it was funny. It's kind of like a family. We always scrap between us. You know, oh, we hate Spencerport. Spencerport hates us. You know, it was always a scrap. But then when we ever wrestled sectionals or teams outside our section, we all pulled together, and it was like a family. And we were Section 5. And we were Section 5 was going to kick butt. You know, nobody's going to beat Section 5. And we really felt an innate order of pride from being from Section 5. And that kind of pride carried with me in college and at West Point and in the Army. So I feel tonight to be honored to join the phenomenal athletes that we're going to hear tonight and we've heard in the past, the coaches and the referees of Section 5. And after serving in faraway lands, to be back home, it's just an honor. Something I always cherish. Thank you, Section 5.
But you're supposed to be here, the person that's with you. Who presented you?
Oh, Frank, come on. Frank, what the hell? Chris, see what happens when you get a stand in? No.
Nobody wants a microphone in their picture. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Our next honoree is Matt Sheldon, former Hornell wrestling coach. I would say that from my experience knowing Matt, during his time, he was one of the most well-respected coaches in our section, not only from the championship teams and individuals he produced, but the role model and the way he treated people. To present Matt is his longtime assistant and right-hand man, Mike Kramer.
They told me to talk loud. Matt was a dedicated teacher, principal, superintendent, and coach. While teaching, Matt would invite his students to watch our wrestling matches. One student loved to come to our matches and would sit with the team and cheer us on. But if the other team started to move ahead of our team, he would start cheering for the other team. But that didn't bother Matt a bit. It did get interesting looks from the other team, though. I don't want to bore you with a bunch of stats, but I do need to touch on a few of his highlights. I'd like to thank Dale Parks for helping me with all these statistics. Matt had 3 Section 5 class titles, 4 LCAA Division I team titles, 3 LCAA tournament titles, 4 Sullivan Trail Conference League titles, 3 Steuben County team titles. Matt's teams won major, very competitive area tournaments when these tournaments featured 25 to 30 full teams, like the Attica Blue Devil Classic, the Genesee Valley, Cicero North Syracuse, and Canandaigua's Bradshaw tournament. Matt had a dual meet record of 146 and 26, and he had 3 state-ranked teams. In 95 and 96, he had undefeated teams going 22-0 and outscoring opponents 598 to 88, while averaging 57 points per meet. Matt had 23 sectional champs and put 20 wrestlers in the state tournament. In 96 and 2006, he had 3 wrestlers in each of these tournaments, or each of these years, go to the state tournament, with 5 of the 6 placing. Most importantly, Matt took many kids that were headed down the wrong path and taught them that hard work, dedication, and determination could give them success in life. It's my great honor to introduce to you Matt Sheldon, the heart and soul of Hornell Wrestling.
Okay, just move over a little bit. Just let me get you now. Save you aggravation.
First, I want to congratulate the other Hall of Fame inductees tonight. I feel very honored to be part of the same inductee class. Also, a special thank you to the people that have come tonight to help me accept this honor. You know how much it means to see so many of my former wrestlers and parents here tonight. I want to thank Mike Kramer for your kind words and for putting up with me for 11 years as my assistant coach. It means a lot to me to think that you were willing to speak on my behalf tonight, since I know you enjoy public speaking about as much as I do. I also know that the program would not have been nearly as successful without you and all my other outstanding assistant coaches. I know that you and the others had just as much, if not more, of an impact on the team's success than I did. I also want to thank the people nominated me for this award and the Friends of Wrestling Committee for your recognition. I don't feel I deserve this honor, however. I think it would be more appropriate if the plaque stated that the award goes to the entire Hornell wrestling program. Without the other coaches, parents, community supporters, school administration, and most importantly, the wrestlers, who would not have been nearly as successful in my 16 years as head coach. I especially want to thank the families of the wrestlers who had to make so many sacrifices, not only to help their sons, but the wrestling program overall. Your support was immeasurable. Most importantly, I can't say enough to thank all my wrestlers over the years I've had the privilege to coach. Wrestling is a very demanding sport, and I know how hard each one worked to become the best wrestler possible. I've often heard that the success of an athlete is really only 10% the coach and 90% the athlete. No matter how great a coach we think we are, we can't coach desire. From my first year of coaching, I could see that the wrestlers on my team had that desire and will to win. They just needed people to show them what it took to win and to instill the belief that they could do it. I truly believe that there were two people that were instrumental in planting those seeds in the Hornell wrestling program. First, in my second year as head coach, I had an assistant named Tim Habecker. Tim was part of a national championship college wrestling team at Ithaca. He showed me how to best organize wrestling practices, taught great technique, and showed the wrestlers what it took to be a champion. Secondly, and most importantly, I was blessed to have my first year as head coach, to have an individual on my team named John Gimmel. John had never wrestled before and only weighed 80 pounds in 9th grade. What he lacked in size, however, he made up for in heart and his will to win. John qualified for states in only his second year of wrestling, and then in his junior year, became Hornell's first ever state champion. Besides John being an outstanding athlete, he understood what hard work really looked like and displayed it on a daily basis in practice. John became a role model for the other wrestlers in the program for years to come. I'm proud to say that John was inducted into the Section 5 Wrestling Hall of Fame several years ago. During my remaining tenure as head coach, John's impact continued. The wrestlers worked extremely hard and wanted to compete against the best competition possible. Whether it was in the Sullivan Trail Conference in Section 4 or once we joined the Livingston County League, the wrestlers believed that they could win. We not only did well as a team, but I'm also very proud of the wrestlers who qualified for states. For several years when I coached, there was only one sectional representative at each weight class that qualified for states. I was lucky enough to have several wrestlers who not only qualified, but excelled there as well. That's both when there was only one division and when the state went to 2 divisions. My last year as coach, I was so proud to have 3 wrestlers that won the Section 5 Division II championship and all placed at states. In closing, I again want to thank the entire Hornell community for the 16 years I had the privilege to act as head coach. I don't think I really understood how lucky I was to have been able to coach the group of wrestlers I did until after my coaching career ended. My wrestlers believed in themselves and each other and acted as a team. My wrestlers were competitive and I had to break up several fights during practice, but they're a family and would always stand up for each other outside of the wrestling room. As I look back, I'm so proud of the wrestlers who were able to accomplish on a wrestling mat, but I'm even prouder of what they have become. To use the lessons they learned in wrestling to excel in life and become successful teachers, carpenters, nurses, coaches, military service members, computer analysts, farmers, doctors, and so many other occupations. They have started their own businesses and have become caring husbands and fathers. I hope that people don't just remember the wins and losses that my wrestlers have had over their careers, but more importantly, the successful men they have become. I hope the wrestlers know how much they have enriched my life, and I only hope that I've had a small role in their success after high school. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I am Vince Aceto. I am a former Section 5 wrestling coach. I coached for 32 years. I was at Bishop Kearney for 17 years, then I went over to Webster. And first of all, I want to say congratulations to everybody here and everybody that cannot join us here tonight. About 17 years after coaching, this next inductee called me and says, is there any way that you can come over and coach in Webster? I said, well, maybe we can do it. I knew this guy for the past 40 years. We were friends, we were competitors, and then we became co-workers. I came over to Webster and I went underneath the wing of Dean Salvaggio. Dean asked me to be part of his coaching staff, and I ended up with his JV and modified team. The modified team I was with ended up moving up and being one of his first Section 5 championship teams. So I was part of that, and I was very proud of being part of that, and it was privileged to be part of the Webster program. Tonight, I don't want to repeat a million things that you're going to hear about the success that Dean Salvaggio had, but I am going to turn you over to Mike Seabury and say, congratulations, Dean. Thank you for all your success for Section 5 and Webster.
Good evening, and welcome to the roast. The celebration of our beloved Webster Schrader head wrestling coach, Dean Salvaggio. In true Coach Salvaggio form, we had a saying in our room called Salvaggio time. This is when Dean would have the kids do the hardest, most grueling conditioning imaginable and say it was only going to be for 2 minutes, like a period in wrestling. Exactly. Well, 10 minutes later, after the kids were gasping for air, nearly getting toward death, Dean would yell, "Time!" And that became known as Salvaggio time. So, as I don't want this speech to turn into Salvaggio time, I got my timer right here. Okay. As a college wrestler, Dean was a multiple-time All-American, 3-time All-American. This means one of the top 8 wrestlers in the nation at his weight class. At the University at Buffalo, when Dean wasn't at the library studying, of course, he was excelling on the mat. His junior year, Dean placed 5th in the NCAA championships, and his senior year, Dean placed 2nd in the country, only losing to a 2-time national champion in the finals. Dean has provided over 30 years of high-level service and dedication to the sport of wrestling and Webster Schrader. After coaching at Greece Olympia for 3 years, Dean took over at Webster Schrader in 1996 and hasn't looked back since. What separated Dean as a coach was some of the most unorthodox team management strategies. For example, if an athlete was late to practice, Dean didn't waste time talking to the athlete about time management. No, Dean cut through all the BS. Dean would have the kids stand against the wall, covering their face and their groin, and pick 3 kids to throw the dodgeball at them as hard as they could. This is a true story. This actually happened. As a matter of fact, this strategy was so effective that any kid that walked in late to our wrestling room wouldn't even explain themselves. They would just cover their face, cover their groin, and walk over to the wall. This combination of hard work and fun that Dean brought to the program led to some amazing accomplishments on the wrestling mat. And you can see we had a lot of fun in the wrestling room. I consider Dean one of my best friends, and coaching as his varsity assistant, honestly, I've never had that much fun while working in this grueling sport. Dean's accomplishments include 250-plus career dual meet wins, 22 New York State representatives, 12 New York State place finishers, 2 New York State champions, 34 Monroe County champions, 32 Section 5 class champions, 4 high school All-Americans. In 2012, Class AA team champions. This team was ranked 6th in New York State. If we had a New York State dual championship tournament at that time, like we do now, that team certainly had a shot at a state title. That team was undefeated as well. In 2012, we were Monroe County Division I champions, 2012 Section 5 Large School Coach of the Year, 2014 Monroe County Division I team champions, 3-time Monroe County League Coach of the Year, inducted in the Catholic Wrestling Hall of Fame, inducted into the Webster Wrestling Hall of Fame, and in 2022, Dean was the Terry Justice Award recipient for contributions to Section 5 wrestling. Do you have enough accolades, Dean? Okay. These shoes to fill are so big. With all these accomplishments, Dean will still tell you that his greatest accomplishment was the opportunity to coach both of his sons, Alex and Austin, at Webster Schrader. With that being said, on behalf of Section 5 Wrestling, congratulations to our beloved coach, mentor, teacher, and one of my best friends, Dean Salvaggio. Wasn't too bad, right? I took it easy on you. We had to have a little fun.
Sure. Over here,
There you go, buddy. Congratulations.
Move over a little bit, the microphone.
Put it down. Move
Right
over.
there. There we go. Easy enough. Nice. Go for it. Good
Your
job.
turn.
Thank you, Mike. I do appreciate it. Is this thing on? You guys hear me okay?
Sort of. Stand up.
Pull it out. I'm one of the only guys that probably doesn't have to hold the mic because I am low enough to it. So, Mike, I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I am truly blessed, and I've been blessed for a long time. And I guess I'll steal it from Penn State, 100% Jesus. Very, very lucky. And my coach in college told me one time, he goes, "Some people may say I'm lucky, but the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have." So starting at the top with him. I also have to thank my wife, Shelley. We've been married for almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years in August. And we have been through it all. When you are a wrestling coach, well, first of all, you work 40 hours a week. and then you go to wrestling, and it's another 40 hours, and it's spring, summer, winter. It's pretty much year round. I'll give you one quick story. She's probably a little bit mad at this.
She is.
She is mad at this, yes, for sure. It was in 1999. Justin Jiffy, she said, It was a state of emergency, and my athletic director told me, Dean, it's probably not prudent and responsible to take your athlete to the state tournament. And I said, well, we already got it planned. He goes, well, just if anything bad happens, you just have to prepare what you're going to say. So, number one, our street wasn't plowed. So I had 3 feet of snow, carrying suitcases, had to run 15, 20 houses to the nearest intersection that was plowed. My poor wife at the time was with our twins. They were projectile vomiting, and she couldn't even get to the store, and we only had a half a gallon of milk. I met Frank Vito. We were at McGann's restaurant, or McGann's in Victor, and I believe he had Mike Pagano with him, and he's like, I don't think we're going to go. I go, we're taking 5 and 20. The throughway's closed. And I'm like, Frank, if you want me to take your wrestler, I am going. Frank put his head down and goes, I guess we're all going. So I have a connection with everybody in this, not everybody in this room, but I have so many great stories of so many people in this room. That's just one small story. Coaching my kids, Alex and Austin, again, when Vince introduced me into the Wrestling Hall of Fame for Webster Street Wrestling, he goes, one of his greatest accomplishments is coaching his own kids. And I wasn't sure if I even wanted to, because it is so personal. It is so personal, whether your kid's winning or losing or getting pinned with 1 second left on the clock after beating a state rep, whatever it is, it's insane. And then you got to go on like it didn't even happen. But, there are so many great memories. Mike Cronmiller, senior, he coached me. I started out at MCC, did the 2+2, saved a lot of money. It was amazing. He had a huge impact on me. I was an All-American for him, and he believed in me, and he got me started. In 1 year, I turned around from being beat up by a guy to taking his place and placing him in the nation. At one point, you get in the zone in wrestling where it's like, hey, I pinned a state champ, I pinned a national champ, I pinned this. It's like, you're in the zone. It's like you're just there. You finally realize, how did I get there? And then you want to stay there for the rest of your life. But of course, that doesn't happen unless you're like a Yanni Giacomahalis or something like that. I want to thank all my coaches. Mike Seabury, I handed over the program to him after coaching 33 years and teaching 31 years. I finally retired. It was a 30-year goal. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm retiring. Why am I retiring? I love teaching. I love coaching. I'm leaving him with like $6,000 in our wrestling account and a cupboard full of kids. And I mean, good kids coming up through. He's going to have some state champs, but I was ready to hand off the torch to him. It was soaked in kerosene. The cupboards were full, and he is definitely the right guy for the job. Mike and I have been through a ton together, and he's definitely the right guy to take over the program. Chad Costanza has been with me forever. He helped me win my only sectional title. We all did it, but he was there from the beginning right through fruition. My entire coaching staff, Harrison and Berenson and all the guys, just absolutely amazing. Coaching with Vince Aceto, unbelievable. The brotherhood of wrestling is amazing. It's the hardest sport in the world. It's the oldest and the hardest. It's brutal, absolutely brutal. And as Dan Gable would say, once you wrestle, everything else in life is easy. And it's true. It really is. It's true. This winter, after my first year of wrestling, I wanted to do a few things. I visited my mom. She's 87 years old. She's in Florida. There's a local wrestling team. Called up a guy. I'm like, hey, retired from New York, got over 250 wins, 3-time All-American. He goes, I want to volunteer for you. He goes, hell yeah, come on down. And I met him in a bar. We had a few beers. And he goes, honestly, I felt like I knew him my whole life, because wrestling is a fraternity. First week of practice, he handed me the keys. He handed me the whistle. He goes, you're running the whole practice. I got to deliver mats. So I didn't even know the kids' names, and I'm running the practice. I do feel like a quitter, like leaving Section 5. I feel like a quitter, and like leaving Schrader. But you know what? It was a 30-year goal to retire, and I got a lot left in me. I'm 59 years old, but I feel like I'm 25. I feel like I got a lot left. And Mike Cole once gave me advice. He goes, you know, after he won 2 or 3 sectional titles, I'm like, dude, you're retiring? You're on top of the world. Why are you retiring? He goes, you know what? I got some pretty good credentials. If I want to get back in, he goes, I'm sure I can find a job. So I talked to a lot of people in my life. Bill Jacoteau, would you coach your own kids? Mike Cole. I mean, Coach Ed Michael. I mean, I talked to a lot of people, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. The mental toughness is amazing, and you can do anything you want in life. Really excited. I am joining an elite group of people. I can't thank Frank Murata enough, Bill Hatzel, Chris Bourne, our officials. I got a connection with a lot of people in this room, and I obviously don't have time to go through all of it. But coaching Gregor Gillespie, who won he was a 4-time D1 All-American and a Division I national champion. I have story after story, but those are campfire stories that are just brutal, amazing. Beating him up one day after he ding-dong dished my house. I didn't know who it was. My kids were crying. They thought there was a burglar, and I snuck out back and clotheslined some kid, bloody nose. And I'm like, oh, it's Gregor, 119 pounds, face in the snow, kicked him in the butt, and then beat up the other 4 people in the car later that day, or the next day of practice. So, you know what? I'm truly thankful. I'm the last guy here, so I stole an extra minute maybe.
Can you please delete all that from all the cameras?
What's that? Anyways, thank you guys very much. Thank you, Section 5. And I do have a grandson coming along the way. I just found out that, well, not too long ago, my son Austin is having a baby boy, so I'm sure I'll be back in Section 5 wrestling soon. So thank you very much.
Dean, I remember that 99. We had to take this through. It was close. We had to go down 5 and 20. It was terrible.
20 all the way.
Yeah, all the way.
And it took second.
Mine didn't. Where's Ken Juergens at? Just quick, Ken, thanks for reminding me about my mother, but it wasn't my mother. My grandmother used to sit, and that's the only person I heard. I didn't hear my coach. She would say, come on, Billy. Come on. Come on, Billy. Come on. For 5 years. Our next, I have the pleasure of introducing our next presenter, an Ithaca College graduate, son of Leo Rhodes, Shamir Rhodes.
Yeah, take it out.
Take it right out.
No. Can you hear me?
No.
All right. One, thank you guys for all having us here. This is just a wonderful event, and I just, coming home, I feel like just so connected to Section 5. I saw so many familiar faces tonight. I'm just glad, just happy to be back and see you all, so thank you for that. I will keep this brief because I think the next guy has a lot more to say than I do, but I do want to say some things about him. So I'll start with that. You know, wrestling is a sport that's defined by commitment, dedication, hard work. There's an accumulation of like miniature milestones every time, you know, your hand is raised, you know, at the mat or on the mat. Great officials hone their craft to amplify that moment every time, you know, they're on the mat for each wrestler that wins. Dad, today, you know, you're being recognized because you're more than a great official. You're the best of the best. You have amplified so many milestones for so many athletes in this sport and people even within this room. Your love and care for this sport is transcendent. And over the 30 years, the impact that you've made on the lives of your family, your peers, and the athletes within wrestling is extraordinary. I thank you for, one, introducing me to the sport as it's made a profound impact on my life. So thank you for that. And I know that our family is proud of how you have inspired so many due to your commitment and dedication to the sport. This is a man that doesn't matter how sick he is, he will drive to Hilton, to Hornell, to a Pee Wee tournament because he's so passionate about helping others and amplifying the athletes on the mat. So I just want to say that, Dad, one, congratulations for earning this truly remarkable honor of being inducted to the Hall of Fame, and we love you. Okay. Thank you.
God, Leo, it's like you've done this before.
Good? Good job on my side. Just step to the side. Ooh, thank you.
Take it off.
I don't have to take it out. I'll get my eyes adjusted right, my thought process adjusted right, then I will proceed. All right. I would like to say, man, what a great night of awards and ceremony. Truly, truly is an honor. First, I would like to congratulate my fellow inductees for being nominated and selected to be a Section 5 Hall of Fame, all well-deserving. Everyone here well-deserving, and I'm just appreciative of being part of this class of the Hall of Fame inductee. Also, I'd like to thank Section 5 Wrestling Committee, Friends of Wrestling, for this nomination and induction. For Frank and whoever nominated me personally, I would like to thank them personally. I got an idea who it could have been.
I think it's everybody in this room.
Thank you. So, thank you once again. And let me say thank you to my son, Shamir, who, for presenting me this particular evening. I can't express enough how proud I am of Shamir and all my kids and his accomplishments during his wrestling career and beyond. You guys, if you only knew. Many of you may know that his journey helped me rejuvenate my passion for this sport, this wonderful sport. To some officials, coaches, and I'm sure a few parents might exchange the word passion for psycho dad, which made me the official that I am, believe me. Lim Rogers, Mick Marlowe, they probably can attest to that because they witnessed it from the beginning. I was at a Hilton, Henrietta match, and I was acting just like a psycho dad. I came out of the stands and I was pacing. Lim said, "Coach, is he a coach or what?" Mick put his head down and put his hand like that. Lim says, "You got two choices. You either go back up in the stands or you go out in the hallway." I went out in the hallway. But what that did for me, it made me want to apologize to him because I was not a psycho dad with him. I was just trying to motivate this guy right here. But I was a little loud with it. So anyway, after the match was over, Lim came out to the hallway. We spoke. And the number one thing that I asked him, first after apologizing to him, I said, "Lim, how do you do what you're doing? Because I've always wanted to do that." And he told me the number one thing you got to get in touch with no other than Frank Morales. And the rest of that part is history. The very next year I was an official. The very next year I committed myself to what I consider right now a lifetime of officiating, and I was intended and specifically wanted to make sure that I did it at the highest order. At the highest order. I didn't want anybody to say you made a call that went against me that wasn't fair. I didn't want anybody to say you cheated my son. And I think that has rejuvenated or resonated through all of this community because I call it the way I see it. Sometimes I'm not perfect, but most of the time I'm pretty good. I would also take the time right now to just acknowledge and thank my family, my wife Diane, my children Wanda, Demetrius, Leo, and Whitney. They're all sitting here right now, and they've been my support system through all of this, beyond after Shamir graduated from high school. My brother Dwight, who's here in the audience, my brother David, who was supposed to be here but he became ill, and my other brother, last but not least, who posthumously is not here. But they were the stepping stone for me to get started in wrestling, period. I was a young kid like many of us here. I started as a mat rat without knowing I was a mat rat, being beat up on and wrestling and being taught different wrestling moves when I really didn't know what I was doing, but all I can remember was I wanted to be a wrestler at some point. Oh, man. I believe being inducted today in the Section 5 Hall of Fame as an official with some added contribution is at the highest order, the highest honor that you could possibly have. But like many of us here tonight, my love for this sport started as a kid watching my older brothers wrestle. As a lightweight wrestler in the 7th grade, I was in the wrestling room at Madison High School. That's where I met Frank Murata officially for the first time, and I watched how he coached my brothers and the rest of the wrestling team. I also met one of my best buddies. His name is Art Silas. He gave me the hardest cross face that I've ever had in my whole life. And I think it must have meant, welcome to high school, or this is for your brother kicking my butt when I was a little tight. One of those, I believe. I also want to say I was in the same room and met many of my lifelong friends who are sitting here today. Some of them at the CCWA table up front, some of them out here in the audience, but they've been friends with me because we all had something to do with wrestling. Everybody here knows that feeling, like many of you have already said. Wrestling builds that certain character, that certain bond that you cannot, will not leave you. It'll be in your system for the rest of your life. It has been mine. I was a wrestler. I was a good wrestler, but I never reached the pinnacle that I thought I wanted to reach. But nevertheless, I was a wrestler. I'm honored to see all of my friends here. I was also in the wrestling room at Edison Tech as a transfer student because at Madison, I wasn't quite sure when I was going to make the varsity team, but I know I wanted to continue to wrestle. So I was able to go over to Edison, and I wrestled at Edison. But at that time, I met two dynamite wrestlers, one that transferred with me over to Edison, Art Killings and John LeBoy, both Section 5 Hall of Famers. They had the opportunity to wrestle themselves all the way to the state championship, and I believe these two were the first Rochester City Catholic wrestlers, or city wrestlers, to make it to the state championship back then. Although there could have been other wrestlers that could have made it, like Moses Gilbert, Tommy Smith, Moose McGowan, the Facility Brothers, and even Red Fideli that's here today. They would have been state champs, I believe, had they had the opportunity to go when the time came. But we couldn't go in Section 5 back then, so they're kind of left on the table. Oh man, this is just so, I'm so filled, so just bear with me. I'm not going to be beyond my limit, I don't believe. All right. Watching these guys go to the state championship introduced me to another person that I felt very close to, and that was Frank Oliveri, again, at Carter Street rec center. So that's another individual that he helped me. There were 3 Franks in my life: Frank Oliveri, Frank Malnicki at Edison, and Frank Murata, of course. And Frank Murata's been in my life my whole life. So like everybody else, he's the godfather. So, I just want to say at this point, I'm proud to say I hope I've reached and mentored as many young officials in training and in spirit in the same manner that I've been touched by as an official. Always bring your A game, and remember, you may not get what you think you are due when you want it, but it always comes on time. That's how I feel about this award tonight. To many of my family, my friends, my coaches, wrestlers, and parents in this room, I want to just say thank you all for the continued support today and over the many years that I've been involved with this sport. I couldn't be more humble, more honored, and more proud to accept this award in this room tonight. Thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you, guys. I love you all. Thank you.
We're almost done. Before we leave, a couple of announcements. First of all, Jim Sauber.
I'll be very quick. If you look at your tables, you will see flyers for the Section 5 Friends of Wrestling Golf Tournament. It's held at Victor Hills. That is our main fundraiser. We spend the money that we make each year on the kids the following season. If you're not a golfer, understood. If your business, yourself, somebody wants to sponsor a hole, that's fantastic. I put the forms there for hole sponsors. We would really appreciate any support we can get. If you have any questions, my phone number's on there. You can give me a call. The forms also will be posted on Arm Drag. You can find them there. And again, congratulations to everybody, and hope we see you at the golf tournament. Thank you.
Hopefully, take those flyers and don't be afraid to distribute them to other people. That's important because that's where we get the money for the kids. None of the money can be used for this banquet. This banquet has to pay for itself through your ticket purchases and donations we get. That's always the way we've operated. The couple of other announcements. You had something you wanted to say?
Yeah.
You want me to read it, or do you want to?
You can read it.
Oh, yeah, I got my glasses.
Now you have the glasses on.
Okay, we have a political announcement here. Greg Sadwick of Hilton is running for Congress.
Greg Sadwick, running for Congress.
Right, Greg Sadwick from Hilton. Okay, so we'll give that pitch, and it's also on TV, right?
Hilton wrestler.
Yeah, ex-wrestler, of course. Frank Oliveri had the cultural exchange, and you wanted to give a couple of placards to people who were involved. Pardon's already been done?
It's always there, so
Okay, good, thank you. All right. I want all the honorees to meet us up front here, and thank you all for coming, and have a safe trip home, and hopefully you'll join us again another year. Thank you.